in for your thoughts. We're going to be talking about spoiler stuff for Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. So just to start out, I'm just going to say I'm going to talk about like plot points and specifically the character Wyatt and like things I like about his character and just the future of the series and where it's going to go from here. So look forward to that. So Wyatt is a character, yet again, I've said in my New Order review and the New Colossus review, I really liked Wyatt in comparison to Fergus. His story just had such a better arc to it. I mean, you look back at Wyatt when he was first that kid in the very first mission that he like slapped to make him like kind of snap out of it. He was just freaking out and he was just out of his element. And now he's just grown and evolved so much. Even in the New Order, you could see that. He even has a kind of monologue thing he does in the New Order where he's like, I don't belong here. I'm not the leader these people need. And you can totally see that he just does not want that. He didn't belong there. He just kind of got thrown into it. And now he's here and that's what he's doing. And yet again, that's not what he wants. But as the game progresses and even into this game, you can kind of see him forming into that leader that the people need him to be. And when the new Colossus starts up, you can see he's grown and changed, especially between the New Order and this game. He's a little bit more confident with himself and he's a little bit more battle ready. He's that leader that people needed him to be. And you can see as the story progresses, he kind of fits more into that role, and it was really, really well done. And then the guy who plays him, his name is AJ Trouth. I've never heard of him before, but he does a fantastic job, especially in the new Colossus. There's so many scenes between him and BJ Blazkowicz that have like, they're so real and like down to earth, and you kind of have to just sit back and just watch, and they're really, really well done, especially at the very, very beginning of the game. Wyatt kind of gets like this slash across his face, you like can't hear, and he's kind of getting not necessarily mad at Blazkowicz, but he's kind of just like expressing his things. He's like, dude, this ringing in my ear won't stop. It's driving me crazy. I'm just not ready for this. Like I wasn't born to do this. And you can see his kind of decline a little bit. Then once he finds Jay's drugs from the first game, you can see he kind of like, maybe this is a solution. But these interactions between BJ and Wyatt, they ended up being some of my favorite and most memorable moments from this game, especially at the end of the game. There's a scene when Wyatt's all crazy on drugs and he's going to kill himself and he's got this crazy psychedelic monologue thing going. But in the meanwhile, they're wrestling over a gun as Wyatt's trying to shoot himself. And it was a really intense, emotional scene. I mean, just hearing Wyatt's, like, he kind of tells some story, like, about his, like, childhood and, like, how his dad wanted him to be this, but then he ended up doing this, and then his mom like killed herself, and it was a brutal, like it was a really intense scene, and I really enjoyed it, and it just fleshed out his character so much more. Yet again, showing me why I liked Wyatt better than Fergus, because you don't have that with Fergus, and so it was a really, I thought his character was fantastic, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. Man, that suicide scene, that was intense. I mean, he doesn't actually kill himself because Blazkowicz ends up punching him out, but AJ Trouth, the guy that plays Wyatt, did a fantastic job acting this all out, and his voice work was well done. I don't know how much like motion capture was done, but if so, I mean, you can really see it on Wyatt. His face just really shows that he does not belong there. So now I'm going to talk about some things in the story. So right off the beginning of the bat, BJ's in this coma and he wakes up and he's just a wreck. I mean, his intestines are like gone. I guess they had to cut a bunch of them out. He like can't walk and he's just a total wreck. And of course, Frau Engel shows up and captures a bunch of people. And so it's up to him to go and rescue them. And Caroline and Wyatt are the two that get captured. And he goes onto the ship, and of course they're all making fun of him, like, dude, look at this. BJ Blazkowicz, like the most terrifying guy on the planet. He's a freaking he's a wreck. He's done for. And they do a great job of showing that, just especially in his internal monologue. He's just like, I can't do this. Like, Anya's gonna have to raise our kids all by herself, and I can't let her do that. And he's like, but I'm gonna have to. And it was really interesting because he makes his choice. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna avoid her, and I'm not gonna tell her that. He's like, I'm just gonna kind of ease her into not having me. But then, like right off the bat, he all of a sudden just like starts talking to her, and I mean, she kind of edges him into it. But it's just funny because he was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna talk to her. I'm just gonna avoid her. And then like the next scene, they're having this big long conversation. But anyway, so at the very, very beginning of the game, when they get captured, Frau Engel executes Caroline and like cuts her head off. And it's a really gnarly scene. I mean, she's like, first person cuts her head off, and then like the head like rolls in front of your face, and there's like blood everywhere. And then Frau Engel, of course, gets the head and is like messing around with it. And it's kind of like sadistically funny, but it's like super crazy and messed up. And it was a really good scene. And yet again, it shows Frau Engel's charisma and evil intentions. I mean, she's a super evil person. But also you're kind of like, that was kind of funny. But Caroline's death, while sad, was also pretty necessary. I mean, you kind of think about her character in the story. There wasn't much she could do. And then with the introduction of Grace, which I actually like Grace better than Caroline, it was her time to go, and I thought they did a good job of sending her off. Especially there was a nice little funeral scene, and it was really cool and awesome. But yeah, that one, that death made sense, and I was glad that there was some death in this because you don't really lose very many main characters throughout the series of the stories. But one thing I really, really liked is they delved more into B.J. Blazkowicz's childhood, and you can see how abusive his father was to him and his mother. You get lots of flashbacks and scenes, especially one at the very, very beginning, when you just see the abuse that his father is putting him and his mom through, and you even have one part where you have to shoot his dog, and he's like a little kid, puts you like right there in like very beginning of the game, like the first time you get control of anything. It's like, all right, here's a shotgun, now shoot this dog, and it's like, whoa, what? I was glad you can like shoot the wall, but then it doesn't help because then BJ's dad just ends up shooting the dog anyways. It was a really brutal and emotional scene, and you could just see the anger and the hate that BJ has for his dad because his dad was such an ass. But this was necessary because I felt like it gave a motivation for BJ. I mean, you look at the first game and he's kind of just like, oh, I hate the Nazis, and you're like, yeah, I do too. But then you see this backstory with his dad, and you see that his dad had a lot of the same ideals as the Nazis. I mean, you look at his character, and his dad is literally a Nazi. Even in the grown up, when BJ's all grown up, he goes back to his house, and his dad's there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the Nazis are awesome. Like I totally agree with them, and I'm doing what they're doing, and life's great." You're like, dude, this guy sucks, and you could see that it gives BJ Blazkowicz more hatred for those Nazis and motivation, and I really like that. It gave him some, yet again, builds up his humanity. So I really liked how they did that. And of course, like I said, you have a mission where you go back to your house and you can explore the house and you can see all these memories from BJ's childhood, whether they were good ones or bad ones, as he met and interacted with this girl that his dad absolutely did not approve of. And, kind of gets you thinking, like, yeah, I totally see why BJ is just a total straight up Nazi killer because he was raised in that. And that hatred is just fueling up and boiling, and it's awesome. They do a fantastic job of really fleshing that out. Well, they never come out and explicitly say, yeah, that's his motivation for killing Nazis. You can see that. At least I did. I could see him like, yeah, that's his motivation. And of course, I can't talk spoilers without talking about like the big like twist of the game. So about halfway through, actually right after that mission, when you go back to BJ's house, the Nazis show up and they capture him, and he gets set up for execution. And this whole time, I'm thinking like, oh wow, like this is pretty gnarly, but don't worry, it'll be fine. And it gives you lots of senses of hope. Like at first, you're kind of like, oh shoot, he got captured, but don't worry, they'll save him. And then Super Special shows up, which I loved this scene. It was really Super Special is crazy and awesome, and it was unfortunate that he died, but it was a great scene. But yet again, it gives you hope because he's like, oh yeah, we got this killer plan. They got a car waiting in the garage. I'm gonna fake out the Nazis. We're gonna run through that door and get out of here. And you're like, oh, score! This is gonna be awesome. But no, Frau Engel shows up and shoots him in the face, and you're like, oh, that didn't work. But then as it progresses, then you get to a courtroom scene, and you like break out, and there's just awesome like, and that's the point of the game when it like all of a sudden just got like really hard, and it was like weird that it got really hard real quick. Which it was kind of a bummer because it kind of killed the momentum because you like break out and you're like, yes, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to shoot all these guys and BJ's going to get free. But then I died a lot, and so it's kind of like, ugh, kind of killed that momentum for me, but it still was an awesome scene. But yet again, it introduces that hope. You're like, yes, I'm going to get out of here. Everything's going to be okay. And then even at the end of that sequence, BJ goes into this room and his mom's there, and they have like this sweet moment. And it was really, really cool. And she kind of gives him like, hey, things suck, and it's going to, things really sucked when you were a kid, and I can, I totally know you deal with. I mean, your dad was such an ass, but look, things are going to end better than they began with. So, welcome death, and you've been kind of doing that this whole time. So just embrace it. And it was such an awesome scene because then right afterwards, all of a sudden you're at the Lincoln Memorial, and they lay you down on the bed, and Frau Engel's got this giant sword. It's actually some of the promotional material had that. Her with the sword, and you're like, ooh, interesting, but I didn't really think about it. But at the time of the game when I was playing, I was like, oh man, like maybe they're gonna get out, but then once they lay him down, she gets that sword out, I was like, he's not making it. Like, is this game really gonna end like this? Well, my first thought was this game is way too short. My second thought would, how crazy would that be? They freaking just kill him, credits roll, game over. Like, that would be insane and nuts. So that would have been cool to see. But yet again, she chops his head off, and you see it all in first person, and it's so gnarly and awesome. It just, all of a sudden, that hope you had, you're like, yes, he's going to get out of it. All of a sudden, you're like, nope, he didn't make it. And with a big stretch of science fiction, they managed to actually, like, they switch out his head with, like, a dummy head that falls, like, because she, like, chops his head off and, like, picks it up and then drops it, and it falls in this fire. But the Resistance fighters, like, managed to like switch up robots. So like a robot catches BJ's head and has like a mannequin head and drops a mannequin head, takes BJ's head, and they go in like I said, total crazy science fiction. Like, hey, look, we have this perfectly genetically manufactured body here, and your head just happened to get cut off, and so we're gonna put them together, and everything's gonna be all right. Which it was pretty cool. It was awesome. It's like awesome. We're gonna be back into it, and the story's gonna continue. But it just showed that you can kill a main character in a game and bring him back and make it work. I mean, I've played games where they kill the main character. I mean, Kingdom Hearts did it, and Kingdom Hearts did it well too. But yet again, this just shows it again in a more modern setting. I don't see a lot of games that do that very much anymore, and it works. It usually doesn't work as well. But this one worked, and it was really cool. Especially for me, I thought it was a really awesome and intense scene, and just totally blew me away. One last thing before I talk about the future of the series. So, up to this point, we hadn't really seen or heard very much from Hitler, and so I honestly didn't think they were really going to do anything with him, but then when he shows up about the 3/4 of the way through the game, I was actually kind of interested to see what they do, because they took a big risk with his character. Because once Hitler walks in on the scene, he's now like 70 years old, and he's just this old, gross guy. He's like peeing and puking on the floor and just being gross. He like curls up in a ball, and he's just kind of pathetic, and it was really interesting because like in the series, like Hitler is like, he's the guy who conquered the world, he took it over, but then you see him and he's just pathetic, and it was interesting to see that, and I really liked how they handled that. And I also really liked the like kind of Easter egg kind of thing where he's like curled up on the ground, you can run up and just like kick him in the face. It was really funny and just kind of brutal, but I mean, you get mowed down by the countless enemies in the room anyways, and so it just kind of was just kind of something for fun. Doesn't change the story at all, but it was just a fun thing. So it was interesting for them to bring Hitler into the story, so now it makes me curious, is he going to be kind of like the bad guy in the next game? Because he's still alive at the end of this game, so at least it's heavily implied that he didn't die because you didn't actually kill him, and I feel like if it was Hitler, they'd do like a big death scene and make it awesome. But so it makes me curious to see if there will be a third game, because this game ends in a very interesting way. So it ends with them killing Frau Engel and then sparking a revolution in America, and it leaves it kind of closed. I mean, obviously, I think they would make another game, because the way I see the series ending is them completely liberating America from the Nazis, whether BJ ends up surviving or not. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, which brings me to my next thing. So Wolfenstein Youngblood's next game in the series, it takes place in the 1980s, so this is 20 years after the events of the New Colossus. So I'm assuming America has been liberated, because that was the kind of the end cutscene or the credits of this game had like kind of pictorials showing the revolution of America. But Youngblood takes place in France, and so I'm assuming that in those 20 years they haven't managed to take over the Nazis yet. So it's quite interesting to see what they'll do. We'll have to kind of see how Youngblood starts and ends, kind of see what they do there. And I think at that point I'll be able to kind of deduct what Wolfenstein 3 would be like, because it would obviously have to fill in those gaps, right? Or would it continue the story afterwards? I don't know. It's hard to tell, and I'm interested to see what they do, because I've loved this series. They've done a fantastic job of telling the story, so I want to see a conclusion to the story where it ends with them freeing the world from the Nazi reign, and I'm just interested to see what they do. And so we'll see with Youngblood, and then afterwards maybe I'll make another video and kind of talk about it, or maybe I'll make that part of my Youngblood video where I talked about the ending. But anyways, interesting stuff, so we'll just kind of see where we go from there. I wish I had more predictions for you, but I don't. So we'll just go and see from there. But one thing that's really keying me in is at a certain point, Super Spesh has this item, and they bring it back to Set Roth, and he's kind of looking at it, and he's like so confused. He's like, yes, this is something from my group. We made it, and he's like, I just don't know what it is. And then at one point, Wyatt says something about it being a key, and he's like, oh, is it a key? What could it be a key for? And he's kind of just really thinking about it, and they never really do anything with it yet. So my thoughts and predictions are on that is I'm thinking that it's got to be a key to some just crazy like technology vault that they'll use and find to use that technology to take down the Nazis. Which, if you've seen the trailers and stuff for Youngblood, you see that BJ's daughters have those like the same suits that Caroline did and that BJ wore in the beginning of this game. So maybe they obtained those suits from this vault. I don't know. It's hard to tell. And so I'm just kind of curious to see where they go with that storyline and see if that is the solution to taking out the Nazis. So that'll do it for Wolfenstein the New Colossus. I had so much to say about this. Actually, a lot more than I thought I had to say, but so I love this game so much. So please go check it out absolutely before Youngblood comes out and jump on it and get going. Or if you've already played it, hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts, and maybe you have some of the same thoughts or had different thoughts, predictions about the series, where it's going, stuff like that. So yeah, please share, let me know what you think. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. And once more, thank you so much for watching Game for Your Thoughts, and we'll catch you next time.